Hi, today we're going to be practicing simplifying algebraic expressions that involve dividing polynomials by monomials. We'll start off by first reminding you about the distributive property of division. When we're dividing the sum or difference of two numbers by a third number, it's the same as dividing each of the two numbers by the third number separately and then adding the answers. So let's have a look at an example of this. So if I have 10 plus 15 altogether being divided by 5, if I work out the 10 plus 15 first, I get 25, and if I divide that by 5, I get 5. If I take the 10 and the 15 separately and I divide them by 5 individually, so then I have 10 divided by 5 is 2, and 15 divided by 5 is 3, and then I add that, 2 plus 3 gives me 5, then that means that this is the same as that. So I can work it out by adding them together and then dividing, or I can work it out by dividing separately and then adding. Now, the reality is here, most of the time you wouldn't need to do this when you're working with normal numbers. However, when we're working with algebra, this does become important. So if you have something like xy plus xz divided by x, where you can't add the xy and the xz because they're not like terms, then you can still simplify this by dividing each of them separately by the x. Okay, so let's have a look at an example. In this example, we have to simplify the fraction where we've been given negative 18a squared bc minus 9a to the power of 4c cubed plus 27c to the power of 2 all over negative 6a squared b. Okay, so let's have a look at how we would simplify this expression. Okay, so I'm going to take my fraction. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split it up into three separate fractions, one for each of the terms that is in my numerator. So I've got negative. The first term is negative, so I've got a negative, and then 18a squared bc, and that is over negative 6a squared b. Then I've got a minus, and then 9a to the power of 4c cubed over the same denominator of negative 6a squared b. Then I've got a plus 27c squared over that same denominator again of negative 6a squared b. So when I split it up, all three of the fractions are going to have that exact same denominator. It doesn't change at all from one fraction to the next. Okay, now I'm going to go and simplify each of these fractions. So I've got a negative and a negative. So even though the minus I'm writing in front over here, I could have written it at the top over there in front of the 18. Doesn't matter for the first term, but for the second fraction it does. You have to write it between the two fractions, and for the third term, the plus, also it has to go between the two fractions. Okay, but for the first one, I could have written the minus in front of the 18, or I can put it in front of the whole fraction. It doesn't really matter. But what does matter is when I'm simplifying this, I need to take that into account, that it's a negative and a negative. And remember, when you have two negatives, it's a positive. So when I simplify this, this fraction is going to be positive, and I've got 18 and 6. Those are going to simplify. I've got 6 goes in here once, 6 goes in there 3 times. Then I can simplify the a squared as well. A squared goes in there once, a squared goes in there once. They cancel completely. Then b goes in there once, b goes in there once, and the c is left over. So that gives me positive. Everything in the denominator has cancelled, so it's just 1. And then I'm going to have over here 3. And then everything else cancelled except for the c over here. So it's 3c. Okay, so that's what I get from my first term. Now let's go on to the second term. I've got a negative and a negative. Again, that makes a positive, so it's plus. Now this one, I've got a 9 and a 6. 3 goes in there twice, and 3 goes in there 3 times. Then I've got a to the power of 4 over a squared. A squared goes in there once, a squared goes in there a to the power of 2 times. And then I've got my b at the bottom and c cubed at the top. Neither of those can cancel. So now we're going to be left with over here 3 at the top and a squared c cubed. And that all goes over 2b. Then for my third fraction, I've got a plus and a minus. So that means this is going to be negative. And then I've got 27 over 6. 3 goes into 27 9 times. 3 goes into 6 twice. I don't have any a's at the top to cancel with the a squared at the bottom. I don't have any b's at the top to cancel with the b at the bottom. And I don't have any c's at the bottom to cancel with the c squared at the top. So I can't cancel any of my variables. So the only thing I could simplify there was the numbers. So I've got 9c squared in my numerator, and that is over 2a squared b in the denominator. So that's what you would get for that question. Now this you can actually do without writing this step over here. What you can do is you can go from here and you can say, okay, I'm dividing that in there. So then you divide each of the things. You say negative divided by negative is positive. 18 divided by 6 is 3. A squared and a squared cancel. B and B cancel. And I'm left with C at the top. So that leaves me with 3C. Okay. So you can do that like that. And then over here, you do the same thing. I've got a negative divided by negative. That's positive. 3 and 6, that gives me 3 over 2. Then I've got a to the power of 4 over a squared. That gives me a to the power of 2 at the top. Then I've got c cubed at the top that doesn't cancel, and b at the bottom that doesn't cancel. So I can simplify that like that. And then the same thing I can do over here, dividing the negative 6a squared b into the 27c squared. That's a positive divided by negative is negative. Then 27 over 6, that gives me 9 over 2 if I cancel and simplify those. And then I've got my a squared, my b, and my c squared. None of those can cancel, so they stay as they are. So you can go straight from here to there. However, if you are not confident with doing this without actually physically doing the cancellations, so like over here, I was able to write down my cancelling, I was able to actually physically do it, then if you're not comfortable with not doing that, then I suggest you write down the step where you split it up so that you have the fractions you cancel with. You can't cancel if you just do it like this, if you don't show that step. Because if you cancel things in the denominator, then you're going to have a problem when you get to the next term, because you're supposed to be starting from scratch with that denominator again. But if you've already cancelled things out, you won't be able to see it properly, and you might get confused about what you cancelled when, and so on. Okay, so if you do choose to skip the step, you're not going to be able to show any of the cancelling out that you're doing. So that's why I said, if you are not confident by doing it with skipping, if you're not confident that you can do it without actually showing the cancelling, then rather show the cancelling, but then you have to write the fractions all separated like that. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a few that you're going to do for yourself. Here's the first one you're going to do. We've got 14x cubed plus 6x squared minus 18x all over 2x. I'm going to give you 1 minute to simplify this as far as possible. Okay, so let's go through that question and see what you should have got. Right, so I'm going to skip the step where we split it up into the fractions. I'm going to go straight on to doing the simplification. So over here, I've got 14x cubed divided by 2x. That gives me 7x squared. Then it's a positive divided by a positive, so it's plus. 6x squared divided by 2x is 3x. And then a negative divided by positive is minus. 18x divided by 2x gives me 9. So that's what you should have got for question A. 7x squared plus 3x minus 9. Okay, let's go on to the next one. In question B, you've got 24a to the power of 4b to the power of 5 minus 32a cubed b squared minus 16ab to the power of 4, all divided by negative 4ab squared. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to simplify this one. Okay, so let's go through that question and see what you should have got. Okay, so first of all, just like in the previous one, I'm not going to physically do the separating of the fractions. If you did so that you can do your simplification, then that's absolutely fine. But I'm going to go straight ahead and do the simplification without splitting up the fraction. So I've got 24a to the power 4b to the power 5 divided by negative 4ab squared. Okay, so first, this is a positive divided by negative, that's going to be negative. Then 24 divided by 4 is 6. A to the power 4 divided by a is a cubed. And b to the power 5 divided by b squared is b cubed. Okay, so that's what you get for the first term. Then the second term, we've got a negative divided by negative is positive. 32 divided by 4 is 8. A cubed divided by a is a squared. And b squared divided by b, those cancel completely. Okay, then my last term, I've got again a positive divided by positive is positive. 16 divided by 4 is 4. A divided by a cancels. And b to the power of 4 divided by b squared is b to the power of 2. Okay, so that you should have got for question B. Now we're going to go on to question C. You've got negative 3x squared y plus 15xyz squared minus 4yz, and that's all being divided by negative 6x squared yz squared. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 minutes for this one as well. Okay, so let's go through that question. Now, once again, I'm not going to show the actual splitting up of this fraction, but this is one that is more complicated. It has a lot more cancellation to do. So if you wanted to split it up to show the cancelling, then that's absolutely fine. Okay, so for my first term, I've got a negative divided by negative is positive. Then 3 over 6 is 1 over 2. So I'm going to have 2 at the bottom. My x squared and my x squared over here cancel completely, so there's going to be no x's at the top or the bottom. The same thing with my y's, they cancel out completely, and then I'm left with my z squared at the bottom. Okay, now I have nothing at the top. Now obviously can't write nothing at the top, I have to write 1. Everything cancelled out, that means I'm left with 1 at the top of my fraction. Okay, so I've got 1 over 2z squared for my first term. The next term, I've got a positive divided by a negative. Okay, then I've got 15 over 6. So 3 goes into 15 5 times. 3 goes into 6 twice. Then I've got x over x squared. The x at the top cancels out, and I'm left with x at the bottom. My y's cancel out completely, and my z squareds also cancel out completely. So that is all I have for my second term. I've got 5 over 2x. Then for my third term, I've got a negative divided by a negative, so that's positive. Then my 4 over 6, 2 goes into 4 twice, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. I have no x's at the top, which means that my x squared is going to stay the same at the bottom. My y's again are going to cancel out completely, and my z at the top is going to cancel with the z squared at the bottom. It cancels completely at the top, and at the bottom left with z. Okay, so you should have got 2 over 3x squared z for your third term. So that's what you should have got for question C. 1 over 2z squared minus 5 over 2x plus 2 over 3x squared z. Okay, now we're going to go on to the next example. In this example, we've got two terms. We've got a fraction minus another fraction. Okay, so in the first fraction, I've got 45x squared minus 20x all over 5x, and then I'm subtracting another fraction where I've got 12x cubed y minus 3x squared y all over 3x squared y. Okay, so let's have a look at how we would do this question. Right, so just like in the previous ones, I can actually show the splitting up of the fractions, or I can go and do my simplification straight away. So I've got 45x squared divided by 5x. 45 divided by 5 is 9, and x squared divided by x is x. Okay, then I've got a negative divided by positive is minus, 20 divided by 5 is 4, and x divided by x cancels. So for my first fraction, I'm left with 9x minus 4. Then I've got a minus. Now you need to be careful. When you have a minus in front of your next fraction, whatever you get from that next fraction has to go in brackets, because you're subtracting that whole fraction. You're not just subtracting the first term in that fraction. So you need to be very careful about that. If it's a plus in front of the fraction, you don't need to put the brackets there because it doesn't make any difference. But if it's a minus, you have got to put this in brackets. Okay, so now I'm going to go and simplify this fraction over here. So I've got 12x cubed y divided by 3x squared y. 12 divided by 3 is 4. X cubed divided by x squared is x, and y divided by y cancels. Then I've got a negative divided by positive, that's minus. Then I've got 3x squared y divided by 3x squared y. That whole thing is the same at the top and the bottom, so it's going to cancel out completely. So that's going to give me 1. So I've got 4x minus 1. But it's not just 9x minus 4 minus 4x minus 1. That 4x minus 1 has to be in brackets because I'm subtracting that whole fraction. This was all part of that fraction. Okay, so now I have to go and get rid of these brackets. So we have 9x minus 4, and then remember when you've got a minus in front of the brackets, it's actually negative 1. So I'm multiplying in here negative 1 times 4x and negative 1 times negative 1. So that's going to be negative 1 times 4x is minus 4x, and then negative 1 times negative 1 is plus 1. And now I can go and simplify that. So I've got 9x minus 4x, that's 5x, and minus 4 plus 1 is minus 3. So that's what we should get for that question. So now I'm going to give you a couple that you're going to do for yourself. Here's the first one you're going to do. You've got 20a cubed minus 32a squared all over negative 4a. And then you're adding another fraction where you've got 24a to the power of 4 minus 18a to the power of 5 all over 3a cubed. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to simplify this as far as possible. Okay, so let's go through that question. Right, so over here, I've got first 20a cubed minus 32a squared all over negative 4a. So I'm going to divide the 20a cubed by negative 4a. It's a positive divided by negative, that's negative. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And a cubed divided by a is a squared. Then I've got negative 32a squared divided by negative 4a. That's negative divided by negative, that's positive. 32 divided by 4 is 8. And a squared divided by a is a. So that's what you should get from your first fraction. Now we're going to go on to the second one. Now we've got a plus, and remember I said when it's a minus, you have to put this in brackets, but when it's a plus, you don't have to, because the plus isn't actually going to do anything. Whereas with a minus over here, we had to then go and multiply that negative into the brackets. But if I'm going to multiply a positive one into the brackets, it's not going to do anything. Okay, so I don't need to worry about doing that. Okay, so now I'm going to go and simplify this. So I've got 24a to the power of 4 divided by 3a cubed. So 24 divided by 3 is 8. And a to the power of 4 divided by a cubed is a. Then I've got negative 18a to the power of 5 divided by 3a cubed, and negative divided by positive is negative. 18 divided by 3 is 6, and a to the power of 5 divided by a cubed is a squared. Okay, so that's what you should have got when you did all the division. Now we're going to go and simplify by collecting and combining our like terms. So we've got negative 5a squared minus 6a squared. That gives me negative 11a squared. And then 8a plus 8a is plus 16a. So that's what you should have got for question A. Now we're going to go on to the last one for today, which is question B. Here we've got 35x cubed y cubed plus 15x squared y to the power of 4 all over 5x squared y cubed minus another fraction that has 6x squared y squared z minus 16x y cubed z all over negative 2x y squared z. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to simplify this as far as possible. Okay, so let's go through that and see what you should have got. Okay, so over here I've got 35x cubed y cubed that I need to divide by the 5x squared y cubed. So 35 divided by 5 is 7. X cubed divided by x squared is x. And y cubed divided by y cubed, those cancel completely. Then I've got a positive divided by positive is plus. 15 divided by 5 is 3. X squared divided by x squared, those cancel. And y to the power of 4 divided by y cubed is y. Okay, so that's what you should have got from your first fraction. 7x plus 3y. Then we have minus. Now, because this is a minus in front of this fraction, we have to put whatever we get from that fraction in brackets. So please don't forget about that. Then I've got 6x squared y squared z divided by negative 2xy squared z. Now, in this case, even though this is a minus in front here, the minus I've already got over there. So I'm not thinking of this as being a negative divided by a negative, because I'm still going to deal with that negative afterwards. So I'm ignoring that. I'm just looking at what I've got over here. So that is a positive divided by a negative. So it's negative 3. Then the x squared divided by x is x. The y squareds cancel and the z's cancel. Then I've got a negative divided by negative is positive. 16 divided by 2 is 8. X divided by x cancels. Y cubed divided by y squared is y. And z divided by z cancels. So from this fraction over here, I get negative 3x plus 8y. Now I'm going to go and sort out this negative over here. So now I've got 7x plus 3y. Now I need to multiply the negative into this bracket. Remember, it's negative 1. So it's negative 1 times negative 3x. That's positive 3x. Then negative 1 times positive 8y is negative 8y. Now I'm going to go and simplify that by collecting and combining my like terms. I've got 7x plus 3x, that's 10x, and 3y minus 8y is minus 5y. So that's what you should have got for question B. And that is how we simplify algebraic expressions that involve dividing polynomials by monomials. Now that we've learned the concepts in this lesson, it's important to practice, practice, practice. If you haven't already got the worksheet that goes with this video, you can find it by clicking on the link in the description below. The worksheet comes with an extra exercise full of questions for you to work on to master the concepts covered in this lesson. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button so that others can benefit from it too. Also, be sure to subscribe so that you can easily find my other lessons, and hit the bell so that you will get notified about lessons as I upload them.